Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AAPI Voices. My name is David Siu, and I am the board member, legislative lead, and podcast host of AAPI Youth Rising. Joining me today is Leezel Tanglao, who's a Filipino American leader and organizer whose work focuses on empowering youth and building pathways for the next generation of Asian American changemakers. She's also a past president of FYLPRO, the Filipino Young Leaders Program, and plays a key role in the nonprofit community. Welcome, Leezel, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you on the podcast. Just to start things off, I'd like to zoom out a little bit and talk a little bit more about your personal journey. Can you tell me about what led you into the Filipino American advocacy area and the world of nonprofits in the first place?
Yeah, I didn't actually, intend to just actually be in this world. I kind of found myself in it in the most unexpected way. So I'm a journalist by trade. I've been a journalist more than 20 years, and that career has taken me across country several times. I've worked in obviously in LA, in New York, as well as Texas. And that has been a primary focus of my journey has been my career, but along the way, I realized that it just can't be that. To have really kind of a fulfilling life, you have to be more than just your job. So I think this is where being involved in the Filipino community came into play, especially during very turbulent times of my career, where if you focus so much on it, like what happens if that job goes away? You don't necessarily go away, and your identity shouldn't be just wrapped up purely on your career. So that is where I think the Filipino community was really there for me. It really recentered me, and gave me a purpose of like, why am I here? What am I doing? Obviously your job, your career is one aspect, but it's not the only aspect. So that's kind of how I've gotten way more involved in the last few years, especially through FilPro and that program that came during a time where I think I needed it the most, and it actually led me back to community. And what does that mean to serve your community? And I think it's, you could define that in many ways, and I think that's kind of the beauty of it. It's not just one thing; it can be many things, and several things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, well, now you have this leadership role. You've had multiple leadership roles. You're a past president of FilPro. So how has your own identity helped shape you to be able to become a strong leader within the nonprofit world and within advocacy in general?
Yeah, I mean, I will always credit Phil Pro through as long as I'm around as being kind of the space that was truly inclusive. Like before becoming part of Phil Pro, yes, I was involved in communities in different aspects, but I think going through our signature immersion program, which is what PhilPro is most known for, really was very much life-changing. It's cliche to say, but it was the most life-changing part. Not the trip itself, because the trip, brings back 20 to 10 to like 15 young professionals from different industries back to the Philippines for 1 week. But I think it was the cohort, the folks that I was with, and just having that lived experience, shared lived experience with other folks that I don't know if I would have, crossed paths in any other way, minus maybe interviewing them as part of my job. And, like I went on that trip back in 2019, and it's been just the ongoing gift that keeps on giving. I don't talk to all my cohort every day, but I feel like I can, hit them up whenever, and they will get back to me. And just being around people that I don't have to explain myself, like all the cultural nuances that come with being a child of immigrants, right? All these little things that sometimes if, you are with people that are not part of your community, you kind of have to explain why you do things. Like with this group, they know. We come from different areas of life, but there is kind of that commonality among us, and very similar struggles. And being part of that has really, I think, pushed me into the type of leadership that I don't think I thought I could be. Prior to that, I was just so hyper focused on my career, climbing the ladder, and honestly and still in many ways being the only one in the room. Not only being also like the only woman, person of color, woman of color. Certainly, most likely the only Filipino in the room. So I think being part of other young leaders in different areas has given me the confidence that, yeah, I can lead, and maybe it may look different. But you know what? I think that's what is the whole reason that you are there and just being confident that, yeah, you belong there, even though it can be hard. So I think that has really helped shape, and I'm continuously always learning, and build upon my leadership journey to this day.
Yeah, it's really great that you're using your experiences to make these lifelong connections that you now have through FilPro as well as taking on your leadership role. So that focus on leadership and community really connects to the work that you do with FilPro. So for listeners who might not be too familiar with the Filipino Young Leaders Program, can you tell me about that program and what makes it more unique compared to other leadership organizations?
Yeah, so FilPro, the Filipino Young Leaders Program, was established in 2012 as a way to really be the bridge and connect young professionals that are here in North America to their motherland, the Philippines. And for many people, it's a mixed bag, the people that come through that program, which again, like I said, the signature program is this program called the Immersion Program, where we take 10 to 15 young professionals back to the Philippines for 1 week, and you get to meet with other leaders in different sectors in the Philippines. And what makes it really unique is, yes, it's a trip, but I think the true magic comes after the trip when you come back. And building upon the connections you make with the cohort you went with, but also plugging into the larger network of alumni and also collaborators and partners that are part of FilPro. And it just gives you very much extraordinary access to spaces that a lot of people don't often get. So oftentimes there's like a government day, so we get to meet with government officials both on the national level and the local level. There's community day. We meet with local community groups that are doing certain advocacies, things like that. And then as part of the program, you are required to do a legacy project. And that could be anything from doing a project here in the US or something in between the US and the Philippines or something in the Philippines. And for a lot of alumni that have participated, it was literally life-changing where they've started businesses in the Philippines and have seriously uprooted their lives in the US to go back. And then there's folks that just are here and they're also doing a business there. So it runs the gamut. It depends on your industry, what your interest is. And I think that's what is very unique, where it comes with a certain level of like, full circle accountability where it shouldn't and it isn't just a trip, like a free trip. It's more than just that. I think if you are really leaning into it and understanding why you decided to apply for this program, it pays off in dividends well beyond that 1 week that you go with another your peer group.
Yeah, well, I also think it's really great that you're bringing other individuals from the community back to the Philippines, back to understanding their culture and embracing their culture, as well as making an impact on their community as well. And then within PhilPro, there's also this separate organization, I believe, TAYO. Can you explain what that is, and how it came out to like fill in the gaps?
Yeah, so TAYO is a program of FilPro. It was started by mostly majority of FilPro alums. It started out as a rapid response to COVID. If you recall, back in 2020, there was just a lot of confusion and chaos at the time because it's like, what is this COVID? What is going on? And it really, in a way, I think it's been a lifeline for us. And when it first started, it started as a COVID-19 task force within PhilPro. So we did kind of the same kind of rapid response that everyone else was doing, raising money for PPE for our nurses, raising money to feed the frontliners, things like that. But it just felt like it wasn't enough. And literally, the origin of TAYO came out of one of these Zoom meetings with alumni. And one of our co-founders at the time was just recounting a story to us where he kind of was like, I'm having difficulty, talking to my dad because he wants to go to the Philippines, but, everyone's saying stay home. So it's like, how do you have these conversations without being disrespectful, right? And, he said the key word that started it all. He said, "Oh, I wish there was a playbook for this." So, like, how to have these courageous conversations. Um, so that started us on a path of like, yeah, let's see what we can do more because we also saw a lot of misinformation being spread with our aunties and uncles. If you recall early pandemic, there was probably, you probably have seen that graphic that showed, oh, gargle hot water and COVID will go away. So it was really alarming to us to see that that was going around within our own close circles and communities, right? So that kind of encouraged us to, look for grant funding and all that. So, we applied to a grant and we didn't get the first one, but, I'm persistent. Like, I know we've got an idea here, and we got the second grant, which gave us the feed seed funding to start TAYO, which is the website, and we launched back in October 2020 with about 500 Q&As, both in Tagalog and English, just FAQs on just most frequently asked questions on COVID. And, our thought at that point is like, well, if, our aunties and uncles and our family members that are, very vaccine hesitant or whatever are sharing stuff, let's give them something that's vetted, that's verified to share versus whatever else they were getting their information on. So, fast forward to now, we're in 2016, 6 years, essentially almost 6 years later, our small core group of people are still meeting almost every week on this project. So, and really it's built upon three pillars. It's like culturally tailored content because we know that it's not enough to like, send a link to the CDC to your grandmother, telling her, hey, you should mask up or whatever. Like, that's not going to help you. It's, when we say culturally tailored content, it's like one step beyond a translation. It's really understanding and meeting your, community where they're at. The second thing is we've really taken up the cause of like how can we battle the lack of disaggregated data. Filipinos are the third largest APA group in the US, but yet we are always kind of lumped in to the greater APA group where that is very dangerous. And that's not just us. That's I think across all communities of color that if you are looking for disaggregated data, it's not there. With the exception of a couple of states that do take this time, we've participated in a lot of first party research, partnering up with like universities and other nonprofits to see, okay, well, what does it look like if we're trying to solve for this problem and what is the data that we can collect for our community? So there's that. And then the last thing is our TAYO Fellowship Program, which we are very proud of. And we saw this as a way as continuing the pipeline that would eventually like lead to FYLPRO, right? Because we are coming from our parent org is a leadership organization. So we could not have launched TAYO like 6 years ago without our fellows. And we've been running this program for the last, 6 years. I think this year is going to be our seventh cohort. And it's a chance to really encourage folks, everybody from high school to even postgraduates, doctoral students, like it runs a gamut to really pair them up with, help us with like some grant projects that we're working on, but also, we have like a internal research division. So it's really giving folks the opportunity they may not get in their work setting or school setting to, be a co-author on a journal article or publish something or be, part of a presentation at a national conference. So it's really opened a lot of different doors for folks. I think what I'd like to shout out with the most recent, two recent things that came out of the Fellows Program is our Youth Summit that was led by our cohort of high school students, high school TAYO fellows, that was held over the fall. And then also our tech team that created a chatbot, a culturally relevant chatbot that they're continuing to refine over the summer and into now to see how can we use AI for good and to help our community and kind of close in that information gap. So Yeah, we're all volunteer. We do this all on our free time, and eventually, I think the goal is if we are able to get this funded, I think I'll speak for myself, and a few of our folk co-founders. I think we would do this full time if we are able to.
Yeah. Well, it's really great that you create this resources for the community and for the community to be able to get accurate information about the world going around. I would also like to introduce another topic. So recently, one of the most exciting developments for youth, specifically high schoolers, within your organization is the recently added TAYO Youth Council. This is like a brand new program really for youth to be allowed to share their voice and to be represented and to create a next generation of powerful change makers in the AAPI community. What inspired the creation of this Youth Advisory Council?
Yeah, that full credit really goes to our high school TAYO fellows that really kind of came up with this idea in particular to really kind of continue what they started with the youth summit over the fall. And it's just a way to really be kind of that direct connection to that particular age group. And I think it's a fantastic idea because I think oftentimes for folks that are a little farther along in their career, we don't always get the time and chance to really interact as much, but to have a whole youth council help advise us on things just only adds to just getting the more holistic view of like what we should be doing, where are the gaps that we can be helping out with. So a big credit to our high school TAYO fellows last year that really championed this idea and as a way to kind of continue what they started over the fall and over the summer as well. So we're really excited and we're really hopeful that we get a lot of folks to participate. And it's an evolving thing. So I think I would encourage folks to apply and not be intimidated by it. I think we're, we're a pretty, open crew here. So I think there's very little judgment, if any, right? To if people want to help, we can find a place. So.
Yeah, well, I'm also very excited for this new program for youth to be able to get involved with your organization even more. But what will youth do to take action while part of this advisory committee? And what will they do part of the committee?
Yeah, I think like again, I think a lot of it is building on the momentum over the fall with the youth summit. It's like, like engagement, communications, marketing. I think certainly they can help with some of our larger projects. I think a great person to also talk to, if you haven't already, is Serena Mackay. She's been kind of the big proponent of this and been help leading the charge. She was a TAYO high school fellow for us, also part of the Act to Change ambassadors last year. So, I think it's just a way to just, in many ways, for folks that are looking to be part of some type of leadership thing, this is a good way to dip your toes very early on. It's just incredible because they've come up with a whole bylaws, constitution. It's like, wow, it's almost way more built out than what we have. So it's really encouraging and inspiring. I think if anything, just adds to the conversation that we all need to have and being inclusive.
Yeah. Could you share more details about joining the youth council and applying? Is it still open right now? And what
Yes.
makes for like a good candidate?
Yes, it is still open. I believe the deadline is the 16th. I don't know if it's going to get extended. It might. But yeah, I think a good candidate is somebody that's open, right? That is willing to try things. And I think that's true for any folks that are joining these type of organizations as like a counselor or, being a board member, things like that. And then being open to, offering feedback as well. I think that is always sometimes can be a challenge because, it's like, well, how do you kind of say this to somebody or whatever? But at the same time, like, I think this is where that's the opportunity to grow. That's the opportunity to figure out how can we do things in a different way, in a way that is, taking into account things that maybe the other people don't see. So I'm hopeful that that's the type of folks that we kind of get. And, again, like it's just a way to kind of exercise and build up kind of that muscle memory of like being part of a group that just like working together to problem solve, because this is not going to be the first time you're not going to encounter something like this. Throughout your journey, career, there's going to be situations you're going to be put into groups and you're going to have to try to problem solve. So I think being part of this is actually a great way to exercise that, right? And then see like how can you kind of help contribute, And sometimes people just don't know how. So it's like, okay, how do you kind of those interpersonal skills and, things like that. So I think that's where I think the huge opportunity it is with this, and then seeing kind of where it evolves. And but the hardest thing is to start it. So I give really big props to our fellows that really came up with this great idea, and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This is a great opportunity for youth. So any youth out there, I highly recommend that you should also apply. The deadline again is January 16th. It'll be a really great program for youth to get involved and for you to share your message and share your voice. And then just to wrap it up, I'd like to end with one final question. So what is one message that you would like to share with the future generation, and like inspire them to become change makers, leaders, and innovators within the world?
Yeah, that's such a big question. I don't know if there's maybe one thing I could boil it down to. I'm going to give props to one of my FilPro alumni and our frequent tire collaborator, Dr. Iko Razon, which he posed this very simple and but yet profound question to us a few months ago when we were at a conference. I would say asking yourself when you wake up in the morning, what are you going to create today? And that can mean anything, right? Because I think sometimes we get kind of caught up of like, oh, it has to be perfect. I haven't done anything. And that's not quite true. Like every day you have the opportunity to create something, whether you're creating an inclusive space, you're creating a piece of artwork, you're writing some note or something like that. Those all count. Like it doesn't have to be like earth-shattering. I'm going to create something to, change the world. I mean, great, right? But like each of those steps leads to something bigger. And I think the hardest thing is just starting. And actually, with the beginning of this new year, like I feel like this is where the momentum is. Yes, I'm going to do this. I think where the challenge is, how do you keep that up the next 12 months, right? And I think it's really just asking yourself that every day. It's like, what am I going to create today? Am I going to create, some time for myself? Am I going to, create a space where it would allow me to, partner with other folks? So it could be as profound, it could be as simple, but I would just encourage people just to kind of ask themselves that question. And I think in many ways it kind of grounds you, and just like, despite everything that's happening in the world, that you do have some agency, that you do have the power to do something. Like, and sometimes doing nothing is doing something, right? And sometimes your body needs to rest, and just like, this is what I love in the last decade or so about just this conversation about mental health, which, me growing up, that was never a thing, So to have that emphasis and making sure you're taking care of yourself is just as important. And that could be, in a way, you are creating something, you're creating a space for you, right? So it doesn't always have to be this grandiose thing, but it can be, but it doesn't also have to be either. So that's what I would say. Like, I think I would just ask myself, like, ask yourself, what are you going to create today? And
Yeah.
then see what happens from there.
Yeah, that's a great message, taking action, making an impact on the community. Thank you, Leezel, as well as the rest of the FilPro team, for joining me today, as well as for speaking about the new Youth Advisory Council and what FilPro and TAYO has to offer. So thank you so much on behalf of API Youth Rising. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.